Hello? Hello? Testing? Hello? Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Mormonism Live. How are you, Mr. Real?
I couldn't be better. Life is good. By the way, I've got my blackout, like they're static cling covers on the windows now. So notice it's like really dark in my room and the sun is still out here in sunny St. George, Utah. Barely though. So anyway, the studio is, I think, finally ready.
My bunker is basically underground, so I don't have that problem. But it looks great on you.
That's what happens when you broadcast from behind enemy lines.
Yeah, what's with the chains around the neck? Are you going as Mr. T for Halloween?
I pity the fool. I pity the fool who we're not in Hannibal to get their butts over here and we'll fight some crime.
No, actually, I'm either Kwaku. I got, my two chains. I've seen Kwaku do this before, so I thought it'd be kind of cool. But actually, I am my favorite baseball player right now, Jose Ramirez. So look at that. There's me.
Wow. I'm not following baseball like I never did, so I don't know this guy. But his net worth, there's no number there. I'm expecting it's a big number.
It is a big number. He's the cleanup hitter for the Cleveland Indians. The Indians were one series away. They were playing the Yankees. The winner would have gone to the World Series, and the Yankees did go to the World Series. My team, as normal in Cleveland, lost. And we have a favorite phrase here in Cleveland, Ohio. There's always next year.
Well, they also have a favorite phrase, which is the Cleveland Guardians.
Well, I still call them the Indians only because it's habit.
And how much are you going to be donating this time, Mr. Reed?
Well, I did donate $100. It's the same cause that I'm being offensive to this time. Although this time it's a team that I've grown up with all my life, and so it's a hard habit to break. Yes. The other one I've sort of set myself to not say. But if folks are irate, I guess we'll see. And then maybe I lost another $100.
And you know how I knew they were no longer called the Indians?
Because Jose Ramirez's shirt there and the screen said
jersey right there.
By the way, it's in the exact same font that they used to have the Indians in. And
just to trip up podcasters like you.
By the way, I've gotten through the grapevine on multiple occasions that Native American tribes are actually, most of them are quite proud of sort of these things being used in sports, and they're not deeply offended. It's generally sort of, again, I don't know if I'm being right about this, but I think it's sometimes, and what I hear is it's white people who are overcautious about things and tend to want these things to disappear in trying to look out for the marginalized group, but the marginalized group themselves aren't always against these things. So I don't know if that's true here or not, but that's what I've heard on a few occasions.
I don't either. Are you going to ask me what my costume is?
What is your costume? Like, what are you dressing for Halloween?
Morass that we've gotten ourselves mired into.
You want to see more of my what?
No, I think everybody has heard all they need and want to ever hear in their entire lifetime about Bill Reel's ass.
It's healing great, by the way, everyone.
Okay, we're all so happy. Can you see my T-shirt from there?
It's the Great Pumpkin.
Yeah, those are the Peanuts kids.
Charlie Brown.
Yeah, I feel like I'm doing that mana skit, going way back then coming up. But in addition, folks, I got something today. And I think it's communicable. No, I got something today, and it came in a box, and it was from a listener to the show. I had a little bit of a heads up that it would get here. I had no idea we'd get here before the show, but because it's here, what we've got, and I've got it. Oh, can we get Jose Canseco off the screen?
Jose Canseco was a Oakland Athletic in the 1980s. But yeah.
Oh, see, you got to go back there for me to have any knowledge of any names. And Pete Rose.
Pete Rose got it recently.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah, he'll finally get in the Hall of Fame.
Apparently. I know there's a controversy in there involving betting. So, oh my gosh. Is that getting a little bit heavy for you?
I just took my chain off. The Halloween costume was unveiled, and now I want to return back to normal Bill Real. Well, not normal, but by all understanding of who I am, the normal me. So
this is the chain I forged in life, link by link and yard by yard. Okay, so here's a hat. I got a hat. Now, this hat may look very nice and capacious, okay? But even so, it's not quite big enough for my overly large cabeza. So,
Dr. Jones.
Yeah, apparently that actor's coming out in a new movie here early next year, and it looks like it's going to be a good one. I saw the trailer the other day. I can't remember what it's called, but anyway, it looks like it'll be a lot of fun. And I was the one in the theater calling out, Dr. Jones, while the trailer was playing. I think it's great that this actor, Steven Spielberg, I don't remember his name, but Steven Spielberg tried his best to make something of him, to get him a career as a kid. And he was in 2 huge movies, at least. There's the Indiana Jones Temple of Doom, which was a total flop. And the Goonies.
Oil Slick.
Goonies as well.
Yeah.
And then, he left, movies because it didn't work out for him. And now 40 years later, all of a sudden he's in movies, and he's in really, really critically acclaimed movies. So I think that's great.
Yeah. I loved him in Indiana Jones, and I loved him in the Goonies.
Well, thank God it looks like he took some acting lessons in the intervening 40 years. So here we've got the hat, right? But it's not just a hat. It's also, okay, this is the cool part, a stone.
It all started with a rock, my friend.
Yes, a rock and a hat. It's like chocolate and peanut butter.
Yeah.
The rock and it's like love and marriage. So here we go. And I know you know the rest of that because of Married with Children. Go ahead.
No, I won't sing it.
They go together like a horse and carriage. So here we go. They go together like a rock and a hat. This is a real rock, by the way. Yeah. I don't think it's the same rocks that you sell. This is you do the jasper ones, which may be more historically correct. But I love this beautiful. This is a cat's eye or a tiger's eye. They may be similar or the same. But I love this. I used to be a rock hound when I was much younger. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, here's the hat. What you do is you take this, okay? I'm going to try and keep this in the screen. Can we make this whole screen me? Just for a second. Yes, thank you. That will involve removing you from the screen, just temporarily. So here we've got the screen. Temporarily. This is the rest of the show, folks. Here we go. So you take the rock, you put it in the hat, and then you come up with this other item, the third item that was given to me, a magnifying glass. And you use the magnifying glass to look at the rock in the hat, and oh my gosh, what amazing things I'm seeing. I'm seeing letters, I'm seeing symbols, and now I'm seeing nothing. Why am I seeing nothing? Because that doggone rock disappeared right out of the hat. And that's the name of that trick. So, are you still there, Bill? Bill, you look like you're dozing.
No, I was trying to play an applause, and I couldn't get the sound effects to come on. So
there's probably a reason for that. It wasn't that miraculous.
Yeah, for some reason, my Rodecaster is now. Oh, I know why. Here we go.
Thank you very much. I found it again. By the way, this is the little known reason why Joseph Smith had 3 of these suckers, because when he woke up, he couldn't always lay his hands on one. So he had to have backups just in case.
Yeah, and he carried it around in his pocket pretty much everywhere he went. I mean, there's numerous stories of him pulling the rock out of his pocket to show people. So, yeah, like in the Mormonism Unveiled, trying to think of the various characters in there that were testifying or sharing their witness statements, but there were several that said he would like walk around and pull the rock out and show them that this was the thing.
Is this a thinly veiled body joke?
This is not a thinly veiled body joke. I was being
body.
It's a big eye you have. You look a little bit like not Chunk. What's the guy off the Goonies?
I have no idea because I hated that movie. I hated it even more than I hated Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom.
Well, I loved them both. They were part of my childhood.
And that's good. That's why there's all sorts of different, tastes in the world.
Different strokes for different folks.
You're talking about I actually saw it in the theater, and I regretted spending that $3 for my ticket ever since.
Sloth. Yeah.
Is that what it was?
Sloth was the name of the guy. By the way, I'll put the StreamYard link into the comments. If folks do want to join us in the studio, you can again have your camera off or on. It's up to you. But if you want to join us in the studio and tell us as we get going here, we'll share a few stories. But if you want to share your Halloween stories, you can do that. RFM, you said a listener of the program gave you that stone.
I've got the name right here. I'm not going to read it because I don't have permission, but it says, "Enjoy your gift from blank." And thank you so much.
Yeah. It is a beautiful rock. It's all shined up. looks like the beautiful gems that you would find sort of in a gem shop or crystal shop where the rocks have been ran through a rock tumbler and
Oh yeah, this has
got a
definitely been
great shape
polished.
to it. Yeah, it's beautiful. So whoever did that put a lot of work into it, because you can't just put it into a rock tumbler. That will generally round them out into more of a circle. The strange length will sort of get chewed up by it bouncing around for hours and days and sometimes even weeks. So whoever did it put a lot of time and energy into that stone.
I think this listener did it by hand.
Yeah, that's what it looks like.
Thank you so much. By the way, you can deduct the price of this gift in your taxes if you don't already know that.
You can do that.
I would encourage you to.
Time and energy. That's right. Talking about deductions, folks, we would really appreciate it. For those who support the program, we are grateful to every one of you as donors and supporters of the various podcasts we do, namely Mormonism Live. But if it's Radio Free Mormon or Mormon Discussion, we much appreciate it. There are folks out there, some of you have been enjoying our content for years, maybe decades at this point, at least a decade and plus.
For you, yeah.
And if you've never donated, we'd really love it if you jumped on our team and became a donor. Those donations are tax deductible inside the United States. And we are a 501c3 nonprofit. And I will, in a few minutes, put that link up on the screen, not on the screen, but in the comments and maybe on the screen as well. And also just to note, this is how we do what we do. And it's how we put out great episodes like we did a week or two ago about Elder Oaks, which I think got a phenomenal response.
Check on that.
It keeps both of us podcasting multiple times a week, sharing the things that we have read and sometimes are currently learning about, so that all of you can engage both in an entertaining way, Mormonism, but also can have information that I don't think you would have had otherwise. I think this show might be responsible for as many new insights as anyone else. So
17,000 views on that.
Yeah, 17,000 views on the Elder Oaks Deception. Doug Vincent, I do my part to lift and support out. RFM will get it. So this is one that RFM gets. We are making a little tab on each of those that RFM gets and make sure that he gets his comments. So
is that what Doug Vincent means, or is there some kind of reference that he made in the first part that's to something that I'm supposed to get, that he thinks I will get, and which I in fact do get, but don't ask me what it is because I have no idea.
It sounds more like the latter, but we'll earmark it for you anyway.
Okay, thank you. And then Bill will take a $20 for himself.
Yeah, there's MormonDiscussionsPodcasts.org. And then I was just gonna, thank you, Teresa, for being a moderator and for handling that. I'll just put up on the screen too the actual donation link, which is this one here. So there is that. And if you go to MormonDiscussionsPodcast.org, go in the top, you can click the donate button. It'll take you right to this page. And $5 a month, $10 a month, RFM and I hope to be doing this work for at least another decade and maybe a couple of them. So let's support the program. RFM, what are you thinking about tonight with us getting so close to Halloween?
Well, I tell you, I love Halloween, my favorite holiday of the year growing up. Halloween season started on October 1st and ended around November 5th because there were like 5 days of mourning that Halloween was gone, it was over, and it would not come again for an eternity, which we called a year when I was a kid. So it was extremely fun. And the thing I loved about it wasn't the candy, for crying out loud. It was the entire atmosphere and the spookiness and everything that comes with it. And the show, it's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown. When I was a kid, back before, I never thought I'd be saying this. When I was a kid, back before the days of VCRs and DVDs and, God, heaven forbid, streaming, right? You had to watch the Charlie Brown Halloween and Christmas, but the Halloween special in Halloween in October, or you missed it, or you didn't get to see it, or it was gone for another year. There was no way of recording that. There was no way of playing it later or watching it when it was more convenient. No. So what I did, like kids, I'm sure all over the country, was I looked for the TV guide religiously, scrupulously every week in October, also December. to make sure that the specials were highlighted, and I knew when they were airing, what channel they were airing, and then I would transfer it to a calendar to make sure that when it started, I was there in front of it and the TV screen was glowing. And I'm sure there's lots of people out there who remember those days. And for my money, said the old timer, for my money, yeah, that's what made it more special.
Yeah.
Something that you can watch anytime is not as special as something that you can watch once a year.
Yeah. 100%. Today, 2024, Halloween starts like July 5th. And it's been going for a while. Like I saw Halloween decorations about a month and a half ago. So more than that, 2.5 months ago, because it was about a month and a half before we even got into October that I started to see them. And I'll just tell you, I'm a generation different than you, but I also couldn't watch those shows at my whim because my dad thought the Betamax.
He went all in on
player.
beta.
He did. And then when we went to the Blockbuster or the video store at the time, we would walk in and they would have all of the VHS sections of stuff. And then there was one little cabinet that was the beta movies.
Yes.
And those were the ones we could pick from in the Christmas specials, the Halloween specials, certainly the animated stuff there that was classic. Wasn't part of that. And I didn't get to watch much during those 4 or 5 years that my parents held out, thinking that Betamax was going to really take off.
So what was your most memorable Christmas? Halloween. And by Christmas, I mean Halloween.
My most memorable Halloween. Well, let me share two of them. One really quickly. Halloween's my favorite holiday. If you were to go into my living room right now, you would see tons of like little scary baby heads and like skeleton rats. And I have a real, like not real, but like
these are all fake, right?
Sort of life-size skeleton. I got little pumpkins. I got lots of little decorations out. And I actually threw about half of them away, but I have a ton out still. And when I was like 14 years old, my parents lived on my mom had gone back to school and became an LPN. My dad worked his way up to being a foreman in an asphalt company, and they were sort of middle class finally. And we lived in a nice neighborhood, lots of kids, just tons of them. And so lots of trick-or-treating. And so I got my cousins and my uncle and my dad all involved. We all dressed up. My brother was on the roof with a chainsaw with no chain, but had it running. Kids are scared to death. My cousin, who was in the construction business, had a harness on himself, construction harness to hang from, and then had a noose around his neck, so it looked like he was hanging. And my other cousin dressed like a scarecrow at the end of the driveway with the bowl of candy. And anytime a kid would reach in to get a piece, the sign there said, "Take one piece only," and as soon as they reached in, he'd scare the hell out of them. And I dressed like an old lady. My dad laid in the driveway with like blood and gut stuff all over him, so he looked like he got ran over by the car in the driveway. And we had a lot of fun. We did that for like 2-3 years, and then my parents bought a property and built a house out in the country, and that was the end of that. And I lived at a little tiny street that maybe 3 kids would come knocking on trick or treat. So I sort of have not been able to enjoy Halloween for a while. So there's my short story. Here's my long one. On a Halloween night when I was 7 years old, I spent a night in jail. And you asked me when I gave you the heads up that I was going to tell this story, you said, "What'd you do?" And I said, "Well, let me tell you, I didn't really do anything." It was Halloween night. My parents and my cousin's parents, my aunt and uncle, the 4 of them took the 2 of us out trick-or-treating. I don't remember which one of us, but one of us was dressed like Batman. I remember that. I don't remember who the other one was dressed like, and I don't know which one was dressed like Batman. But we went trick-or-treating. I'm 7 years old. He's 7 years old. This is my cousin. He lived on the same street that I lived on. We had a lot of fun, great time with our parents. The Halloween trick-or-treat portion has come to an end. The adults are going to go out to bars and have a fun Halloween night at some Halloween parties happening at bars. So my aunt has her babysitter that she likes to use. And so she told my parents, like, "Hey, you can use my babysitter. That's where I'm going to take my kids." So me and my cousin go to the babysitter's house. And she decided, since there were no parents home, she was just like a 17-year-old kid or something. And she was watching us 7-year-olds. And she decided to throw a party because there were no adults at the house. And it was just her watching the two of us. And so now I remember other kids. There's like other kids her age all around the house. Music's playing. And suddenly these red and blue lights flashing pull into the driveway.
So the cop said, let's get the 7-year-old.
Yeah, whoop, 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 whoop. Yep. So the cops come in and bust the party. Someone had complained that they were being too loud. They had adult beverages. So the cops dispersed the party. Everyone had to leave, except you can't bust up a party and leave 2 7-year-olds with the person you just busted the party of. So the cops took me and my cousin, put us both into the back of different police cars, which scared the hell out of me. I was in the back of a car and he was in the back of a car. And guess who at 7 years old thinks they're being arrested?
Well, they don't want you to talk together to get your story straight.
No. So they drive us to the police station. And they have to sort of babysit us while a couple other officers go try to find our parents.
Right.
So their idea of a good time was just to show us around. So I remember them putting me in the jail cell and closing it up and going like, "Hey kid, this is how jail works." Da, 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 you know, and again, scaring the hell out of me as a 7-year-old. So they went around to a few bars. They were trying to find my parents. They didn't know exactly where they were, but they knew from the babysitter that they had gone out before the day of cell phones. And so they finally walk into the bar that my parents are at. My dad is sometimes a smart ass. It's a costume party. Everyone's having a good time. Somebody walks in dressed like a police officer. My dad, here's what he says out loud. "Hey, who dressed up like a prick?" And right then, the cop goes, "Is there a Mr. William Real here?" Right? And my dad, I know my dad, what he would have done is he would have put his head down and went, "Super," you know? So he ended up coming to the police station and picked my cousin up, and chewed out the officers because we were scared, and he could tell like we had not a good experience. And he sort of asked them and gave them a hard time about how they had sort of not explained to kids very well what they were doing and had these kids scared that they were in jail. So that's the night as 7 years old that I spent in jail. And there's the story.
And that was Halloween
Night.
of what year?
1980s, 85, somewhere in there. 1985.
So you were born in
78.
Okay, that checks out.
Well, I mean, I added 7 to 1978, and that's how I got 1985. But if you want, I can put my cousin on the phone, and you can question him too, and see if the stats hold up the same.
I would like to hear how his story compares to yours.
I probably should have him call in.
I think you two were supplying the alcohol to the teenagers.
Oh yeah. Well, if you'd have given us another 5 or so years, we would have had no problem being those guys.
Well, did you want to have people call in with their stories?
I do, folks. The phone lines are open. We'd love to hear your favorite Halloween stories about you or someone you care about or something you heard. It can be scary. It can be entertaining. It can be fun, whatever you want it to be. But the number is 662-667-6667 or 662 Mormons. And if you want to come right into the studio, I've just put that in the comments and I'll put it up on the screen. Oops, there we go. Up on the screen as well. And so we'd love to hear any Halloween stories you guys might have. Did you always love Halloween, or was there sort of I don't know, like sometimes as a kid, you're scared to death of it. And sometimes you just love it from the beginning.
Oh, well, that was part of the appeal, was being scared to death.
Yeah.
Don't ask me why, but it's true. And so there were certain things that would really, really scare me, but it wasn't just being scared that I liked. It was this whole ambiance and the turning of the leaves and the autumn colors and all those things, and the crispness in the air, all those things that go along with fall get concentrated, at least in my memory, in October. So they become associated with Halloween. I have no doubt that is why orange is my favorite color. Is because of Halloween. I was a kid who had a mother who was so patient that she would allow me in August to practice trick-or-treating at the back door of our house. I came up with the idea. So I'd get a little bag and I'd go up there. I didn't have a costume on. Did I? I don't think I went that far because it was pretty obvious what I was about. And I would go up to the back door and I would knock and she would open it up and I'd say, trick or treat. And she would say, oh, and then she would get a piece of candy and put it in the bag. And then I would sit down on the steps and I would unwrap it and I would eat it there in the August sun. And then when I got done, I'd put the wrapper back in the bag and I would stand up and I would rap on the door and she'd open it up and I would say, trick or treat.
Nice. That was like a little dress rehearsal, and you got a few pieces of candy, and that seemed like you were antsy to do it, weren't you? You were excited to be able to go door to door.
I was. That was about the candy, by the way, but that was in August. In August, it can be about the candy, but not in October.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't want to go into Halloween, the real thing, without warming up, do you?
No, not at all. Me and my cousin, my parents and all of my dad's siblings took their kids into my grandparents' neighborhood. It was sort of a poorer neighborhood, but houses close together, lots of families and lots of trick-or-treating happening in the neighborhood. Me and my cousin, the same cousin I was arrested with when I was 7, we would wear our costumes, do a 1 round around the entire neighborhood, and then we went behind some bushes and switched costumes, pieces and parts.
Brilliant.
And then went around the neighborhood a second time, but this time only hit the houses where we knew the good stuff was. And that was a ton of fun too. So
very clever. By the way, we got someone who's in here, but I just want to point out in the back there, in the fuzzy, hazy, unfocused background, along with the neon sign, the RFM, and the plates, you'll notice that there's a figure next to it at this time of year. It's reflecting gold from the lamplight, and that is the Headless Horseman.
Ooh. Ichabod Crane and the Headless Horseman.
Yes. And we talked about that a little bit earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And so at some point, I know I said this a year ago, but I'll say it right now because we got people waiting. At some point, I'll tell you about the time that I went trick-or-treating as the Headless Horseman.
Nice. I can imagine how you sort of pulled that off, but I would like to hear if you just sort of neck up here and hid your head down below, or how you did that. But
okay,
sometime maybe before the show's over, I'd love to hear that.
We'll see. But we have a call from east of the Rockies.
Yeah, we've got Julie Hanks down below. I'm just going to remove the. Julie, how are you?
Hi, guys.
Good evening.
How are you? Good to see both of you.
Thank you. By the way, you're not really east of the Rockies. I know that. I was just channeling Art Bell.
Okay, I don't get it, but I don't get some of your jokes. So
that's the point.
Okay, make everybody feel dumb.
No, I'm sorry. No, not at all.
Get used to it. It's what happens to me every week.
Okay.
He'll be shouting in the live chat about Art Bell and Coast to Coast and all that great stuff.
Okay. All right. Well, I don't have a Halloween story, but I do have a Friday the 13th story. So I figure there's kind of some overlap there, and you encouraged me to hop on. So Friday the 13th, 1986. So Bill was barely born.
Yeah, he was out by then.
Friday the 13th, day of our first football game at high school. I was a junior, and I was a cheerleader. And 4 cheerleaders were walking in front of the school in the crosswalk, and a woman hit 3 out of 4 of us and wiped out the half of the cheerleading squad on the day of our first football game on Friday the 13th. So
were you the 4th?
No. But it's funny that the 4th who wasn't hit, I was hit. I was thrown 50 feet.
Oh my gosh.
Broke the left side of my shoulder, my leg. But it's funny because the other person was the other LDS person. And maybe I'm making this up, but I think that they had family prayer that morning. And so that was why she wasn't hit. And my family skipped it that morning. So,
God means it. He's not kidding around when he tells you to go to seminary.
Yep. So anyway, that was my Friday the 13th. Yeah. But we were in the crosswalk. And so this was like on the way to school. So there was huge crowds and, 3 police cars and ambulances and pre-cell phone, right? So my friends had to run back to their houses and have their mom call my mom. And anyway, I'm fine. But that was I don't like Friday the 13th. And I really didn't, I haven't liked it for, decades. So.
Was anybody hurt worse than that?
We were all hurt differently. One had some head injuries, but it has recovered since, but that was kind of scary. We all had kind of different injuries. I was thrown the farthest. And there was a group of high school students and friends of ours that were walking behind us, and they were smart enough to take, so this is in Southern California, to take the car covers off of convertibles and cover us before the paramedics got there, so we didn't go into shock. I mean, I was really impressed with these 16-year-old high school dudes took good care of us until the paramedics and ambulance got there. So
how old did you say you were at the time?
I was 16. And so a few weeks later, when the injured half of the cheerleading squad was able to go back to school, I'm in a wheelchair cheering with one pom-pom, one arm. Everybody, it was pretty sad. I can laugh about it now, but it was quite traumatic.
Ouch.
Yeah. So that's Friday the 13th story.
Did you find out who it was who was driving? Because reports are it was Jacob Hansen's mom.
Yeah, Jacob Hansen wasn't born then, so it must have been a close relative, right? He's been after me since pre-birth, in the pre-existence.
Yeah, Yep. Anyway, I was going to say something like Jason Voorhees' mom was active in the first one of Friday the 13th, and we don't even see Jason until the second one made. So it wouldn't be the first time that someone's mother got things started.
Exactly.
Anyway,
The boy's best friend
that's
is
all I
his
got,
mother.
guys.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much, Julie.
Okay, good to see you guys. Happy Halloween.
Thank you. Same to you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
This week's episode of Mormonism Live brought to you by Crossing Guards. Thank your local crossing guard. Kudos to all of them for doing what they do. Our sponsor for this week.
And hey, let's be careful out there.
Hey.
You keep bringing us
That's
back into this morass that I'm trying to get us out of. It's usually the reverse.
Bill Cosby, Fat Albert impression.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm going to sing a song for you.
We do have a phone call, so I think maybe we have a Jay on the phone. Jay, are you there?
I'm here.
Excellent, Jay. You're live on Mormonism Live. Happy Halloween to you.
Well, thank you. Anyway, so I got this story to tell you that I just remember way back as a Boy Scout, and I was raised in a small mining town in Nevada, and in the summer, 2 or 3 times in the summer, our camps were up in Idaho, in the Sawtooth Mountains of Idaho. And the one year that I went up there, our scoutmaster, his name was Reed Stevenson or something like that. Anyway, he told us this story about this guy named Sockeye Sam.
That's clever, isn't it?
I don't know. What's that?
That's clever. I mean, it's almost the complete name of Sockeye Salmon.
Yeah, I wondered if he kind of created that, or if he made it up, or took it from Sockeye Salmon. Anyway, it was a story about a guy that worked on the tray, and somehow something happened, and a big flame came out and caused his eyes to pop out of his sockets. So the only way he could see was to roll his eyes around, and they were hanging from his cheeks. Anyway,
hanging from the stalks.
He just had us Boy Scouts just really, we were so quiet and just into the story. And then when we got home, in the fall, our fall church activity was picked her up in the. Anyway, we wanted him to tell that same story with the girls around, and as soon as he started telling it, I don't know, the girls started screaming, and to me, we just realized it just ruined the whole story. Them squealing and screaming. And, anyway, that's my story about Sockeye Sam. Oh, I have to say, speaking of Art Bell, I believe when I was
hope Julie's still watching.
Pardon me?
What'd you say?
I said I hope Julie is still watching. Go ahead about Art Bell.
Oh, I remember listening to him when I was working a graveyard shift. And he was based out of Pahrump, Nevada, I believe, if I recall.
Yes.
And I don't know why, but so
Midnight in the Desert.
Yeah, Midnight in the Desert.
And he would divide up his callers into East.
I remember living in Nevada when the entire population of Nevada was less than 100,000 people in the entire state.
Wow, those were the days.
Anyway.
And he would divide up his callers, the phone ends. He'd call it, say, east of the Rockies. Or if they maybe were in California or Oregon or something, he'd say, west of the Rockies. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Okay. I stand indicated.
That's my story.
That was the important
All right.
one.
Thanks.
Thank you for Sockeye Salmon.
Thank you, Sockeye Sam.
Here
Actually, I know it was Jay.
Here's the replacement for Art Bell. This was George Norrie, who I don't know if he still does it, but I assume the Coast to Coast show still runs. This was really a great radio program. If you were doing anything late at night where you sort of, whatever it was, you just couldn't get it to go to bed and you didn't have anything else to do, this was the best thing to be doing, was to be watching or listening to Coast to Coast with George Norrie. Very,
very big among truckers.
Yeah.
Among other people.
Yeah.
But trucking through the night, and he was.
I have to say,
oh, go ahead.
New York's beating LA 4-0.
Yeah, so
you talking about baseball?
Yeah, I'm sure he is. I stopped watching when my team exited.
Was that in Mayville?
For the underdog.
He roots for the underdog.
So right now I'm rooting for New York.
Okay. I was going to say
New York has won so many.
So much. What's that?
I was saying New York has won so many. I don't know. Has LA?
They've won. Dodgers. They've won a few. Kirk Gibson.
So these are both powerful teams with lots of championships, aren't they?
Yeah, they're two teams with lots of payroll who can buy a few more good players than everyone else, and then everyone else is at a disadvantage, and they end up there more than all the others.
Yeah, hard to find an underdog there, maybe.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much, Jay. Have a great night.
Thank you. Bless you guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much from the heart.
All right. Looks like we've got Sloan Smart. Sloan Smart, welcome to Mormonism Live.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I think I called in with a Pombero story maybe this time last year, if you remember, on my mission.
Pombero?
You might not have been on the screen, so we don't remember you.
Oh yeah, it was the little guy in Paraguay that followed me, whistled like birds.
It was a very strange story.
And I'm calling in from west of the Rockies RFM. So
thank you.
West of the Rockies.
Are there any chupacabra roaming your neighborhood?
No, but I love Art Bell, and I love all things like, UFO. So I have 3 stories, but I'll let you choose whichever one you want to hear. So I have a UFO, a ghost, or an out-of-body experience.
Well, number 3, I probably don't care about the out-of-body experience. I've had those so many times, it's boring to me now. Between the ghost and the UFO, what do you think, Bill?
I'm a big fan of aliens, so I would go UFO.
Okay. Let Bill make that decision.
Perfect.
That's how you make a decision together. That's why we're such a wonderful partnership.
Wonderful. Like the Odd Couple.
Yes. Can 2 divorced men live together without driving each other crazy?
Yes. Awesome. So UFO story. I was actually driving down. I was living in Pocatello, Idaho. We drove down to Utah, and we were driving back home up to Pocatello on the 15. We actually just had gotten past Salt Lake City. It was about 4:45 in the afternoon. Sun was still up in the sky, but starting to set.
Mhm.
And I'm into UFOs, all that fun stuff. And just south of Hill Air Force Base, there's this big dome structure that looked to me like an observatory, but there was no exit or anything off of the 15. And so I was looking up there and I was like, what is that? Why is there like a dome structure up there? Who would go up there? Is it an observatory? And I was just kind of speaking out loud. And so my wife was driving, and as I'm looking at that domed structure, I see this circular disc that starts flying towards it. And I was, it was smaller than the dome, but not by much. And basically what had happened was, sorry, my daughter just came in.
Well, thank God, I thought the door opened by itself for a second.
No, that's
she is.
my daughter. Yeah, that's my daughter. But essentially what had happened was like it starts traveling towards the big dome. And so, hi, Ava. Okay, Ava, out of here. I apologize. Yeah. So it started traveling towards the dome structure. And I was like, wouldn't that be funny if that was a UFO? And then it started to like go from very shiny to like dull, like blink out. And then it blinked really bright again. And I was like, oh my gosh, that might be a UFO. And so what ended up happening was I was watching it and I told my wife, she was driving. And so she couldn't really keep eyes on it, but she like looked at it and she's like, oh, I see it. And it's blinking out now. And then it got really bright again. And I was like, yeah.
What
and
color?
So then she kept her eyes on the road. I was still watching it. And while I was watching it, it did kind of a Star Trek jump. And I know you're not a Star Trek fan, right?
The original.
The original. So it actually stretched out, like it went from like a disc shape to like it stretched and it started going like south, and then like that just disappeared. So it stretched really long. And then after that happened, 2 or 3 seconds later, it did the exact opposite. So it was really long and stretched and then came back to where it was kind of traveling north alongside where we were.
Mm-hmm.
And then I pointed out to my son, he's 14 now. I think he was like maybe 10 at the time. And he sees it and he's like, oh, I see it. And it starts to circle around the radar dish, right? Like it ended up being, it's not an observatory. It's actually a radar station for Hill Air Force Base.
Mm-hmm.
And it circles around the radar dish like 2 or 3 times. And then after it does that, it basically does the stretch thing again, but straight up in the
Hang on a second, because I
The
think it's
alien-
circling around your house right now.
Yeah, the aliens
Can
are
you repeat that? 'Cause
stopping you.
Yeah, you did Zoom talk all of a sudden there.
Oh, sorry. No, it just zipped out of existence, like straight up into the sky. No, you were in the back seat. You couldn't see it.
Your daughter is so cute. I tell you.
She is.
I'm getting some definite The Ring vibes from her, though.
A little bit. Okay, bye. No, it was actually really interesting because we looked it up afterwards thinking it would answer some questions as far as what that was. And it was a national like strategic radar thing. It has a radar that goes 500 miles in all different areas for Hill Air Force Base. So I don't know if it was testing out the radar or whatever, but it was kind of crazy.
When was this again?
It was September of, I think 3 or 4 years ago, something like that. There, my daughter was an IVF baby, and so we were going down for a Utah fertility clinic. Like, baby, hey, how's it going? So, yeah, that was why we were down there.
Okay. Wow, that's very interesting, especially the daylight aspect. Of course, you do mention the sun is low on the horizon, thus
no, not too low. It started to set. It wasn't completely set, so it was setting.
So
it was
low on
maybe
the horizon.
45 degrees, something like that. Yeah.
45. So you're saying like 3 o'clock in the afternoon?
Maybe 4, maybe not 45, maybe 35. I don't know. It was still up in the air. I could still see it. It wasn't like, dusk yet.
Oh, right. Because what I'm talking about is you have to allow for the possibility of reflection. So you're on the road. Where's the UFO?
So we're traveling north on the 15, and it was up and to the right, and it started in front of me, like through the windshield, like the windshield. Yes. And then eventually, when my wife saw it, it was kind of more towards my window, and that's also when my son saw it. He was sitting all the way in the back of the van, and so he saw it out his right side on the window.
So if you're traveling north, you're in Utah and it's Hill Air Force Base, and this is on the right that you're seeing this, and the sun is lowering on the left.
Yeah.
Then I'm sorry, just the old trying to figure this out with some semi-rational explanation. I just suggest that it increases the possibility of there being something reflecting from
How
the
did
sun.
it go around the circular radar station? Because that's when my son saw it. It went around it 2 or 3 times. So it would go behind it and then go. And that was the weird part, aside from the stretching, like the jumping to warp drive. But it did go around it because I was like, oh, it could maybe be a reflection in the glass.
Right.
Because my rational mind, when I saw it, I was kind of freaking out. And I was like, oh, is it a reflection in the glass? But then I was like, but then how did my wife see it from her vantage point? My son see it out his window as well. Right. So I don't think it was like a reflection of something in the car reflecting onto the window, if that makes sense.
Oh, no. Yeah, I would think of the sun reflecting off some object over there.
Yeah. I don't know, but it did go around the actual radar dish. So we saw it. My son caught eyes with it. That's how I was able to point it out, because it went in front of it, then around behind it, and then back out behind it. And so it did that 2-3 times, something like that. So
you must have checked the internet to see if there were any other sightings of the
there
same
was. Very similar on the 15, same
Did you bring
spot.
them with you?
No, it was a completely different person. It was like 2 years earlier.
Oh, no, I meant, do you have them available?
Oh, no, there wasn't any of that same sighting.
Whoa. 2 years earlier. So somebody else saying they saw something similar, but at a
In
different
the same
time.
location.
Okay.
Around that same radar dish.
Somebody, again, this is off what we're talking about, but somebody's asking, Sloan, are you wearing the new garments? You got your shoulders showing. It could.
I was just doing porn shoulders, so I can show my tattoo. Where's the tattoo?
You have tattoos and porn shoulders in Mormonism now. There's nothing against either one of those anymore.
Oh, how the mighty are
I was
calling.
trying to sin, but apparently they're changing the gospel to accommodate me.
Accommodate your sinning. You got to get out in front of that sinning so that you can be a sinner without the church coming right along behind you and saying it's okay now.
Yeah.
That's true.
Sloan,
so I got to do something extreme then, so that way they could. Yeah.
You're either the high priest group leader with an active temple recommend, or you're an apostate, and we can no longer tell the difference.
I started with a beard, and then that was okay, and then tattoos and sleeveless shirts. I don't know.
It's Katie bar the door.
Pretty soon you'll be able to drink a frappe macchiato, and you'll be great.
If they allow whiskey in church, I may go back.
It's the only way to get through the 2-hour block in 2024. So,
and now we're talking about the 2-hour block like it's exorbitant.
Oh,
yeah, that's true.
Until it's 1 hour. It will be.
It is. 1 minute of that is too much for me, honestly.
Well, thank you, Sloan. Thank you for the story.
Thank you. Have a wonderful evening.
Bye-bye, sweetie.
All right. I think Rebecca Biblioteca might be joining us.
Really?
And so, yeah.
Because I don't think that's Rebecca down there.
Rebecca, is that you? No, that's not Rebecca down there. But Rebecca was in the call.
No, I'm here.
Yep. Look at that.
Can we leave her on hold a little bit longer, Bill?
You're what? Wait, let's say that again.
Oh, God. Here we go again.
In the queue.
We've got Marzipan Krabopoulos who's been waiting patiently below.
I know. I said if you need someone extra, I have a story. That's all. So just dial me in when you need a filler, like a seat saver, right?
Well,
when somebody gets up in the Oscars and moves out.
Okay, hang on. We've got about 45 more minutes to the show, and I'm sure we'll get to you, Rebecca. Rebecca, please tell us your story.
Yeah, don't call me. I'll call you.
What is your story?
You want me to tell it? I thought you really were like relegating me.
No,
I changed my mind.
He's always playing.
I decided to exercise the Halloween spirit.
Okay. No, I have a quick Halloween story. No, I'm like you are, fam. I love Halloween. It's my absolute favorite holiday. I also practice trick-or-treating and started early. So, and I think it's because my birthday's in October, so it's just a really fun, exciting month. So, but I do have a disturbing and scary story that I have shared before, but I think just kind of like in passing. So when I was 15, I think it was 1981, when I was 15, too old to go trick-or-treating, but still want to go out, have fun, so kind of dressed up, went out with the other group of girls that I hung out with who were Maya maids with me, in the ward, of course. And so we're out there, we're going around. Do you guys remember what a Maya maid is?
Yeah, it's one of the mean girls. You were the mean
We
girls,
were
weren't
the
you?
mean girls. I said we were. I don't think so. I mean, somebody might want to call in and say yes, but I don't think so. I was pretty shy, actually, believe it or not.
Okay.
So anyway, so we're out and about. It's getting later. There aren't too many other trick-or-treaters around because we're older, right? We just like to hang out outside, and it feels dangerous and scary. And we've got our costumes on, and we think we're in a neighborhood, and we're like, you know what? Our young women's leader, our Maya maid leader, our advisor, an adult, she lives probably like half a mile away. And they were a wealthy family. So we're like, oh my gosh, I bet they have incredible candy. Let's go over and surprise Sister so-and-so, right? I won't use names. So we're all talking about it, and we're like, yeah, we should, or maybe we won't, or something happened. We got distracted. We're not driving, we're walking because we're only 15. We decide to go walk. One of us had a crush on some boy. We decide to walk the other direction. Anyway, we peel off, right? We do not go visit Sister so-and-so, the Maya maid advisor. We find out later that poor Sister so-and-so had opened her door earlier in the evening to trick-or-treater, after trick-or-treater, and then suddenly she opened her door, and it was a home invasion. It was somebody that broke into her home, had a firearm. She was there. She was older, and she had a young adult son that lived with her. They were both tied up, and the person, the criminal, looked through the house. He was looking for other guns. He was looking for alcohol. Of course, you're not going to find anything drugs. Nope, not at all. It's a Maya maid advisor. And he started looking at all the pictures of the daughters. She had daughters that were slightly older than I was, and making comments. When are they coming home? When are, and this is pre-cell phone, of course, when are your daughters coming home? I'm going to wait for them, this kind of a thing. And so then at some point he went, I don't know what happened, but he went to another part of the house, and the Maya maid advisor broke free of her restraints, and she got out of the house, leaving her young adult son there, still restrained. And she ran pre-cell phone. She didn't go next door, though, and she didn't go to the next door either. She ran, and I try to think of how far this must have been. It was at least probably a mile and a half. She ran to the bishop's house, because that's what you did in the 80s. You went to the bishop, right? Instead, I always thought that was so strange. Instead of going to a neighbor and calling the police, her son is restrained at home. She ran, must have run for like 20 minutes, half an hour to get to the bishop's house, and, pounded on the door. Police came, they caught the guy. So nothing really happened. But I always think about that. Like, what if my little group of friends, there were like 5 of us, 15-year-olds, had decided to go and knock on that door? It could have been a very, very different experience.
Yes,
so
you could have.
that's what I think about.
You could have prevented a crime.
I hopefully that would be the best case scenario, that we could have scared him, or, I think one of my friends maybe was taking Taekwondo. We could have done something, but I feel like it probably would have been a little darker. I don't know. And I don't know at the time, I was TBM. I did not say to myself, oh my gosh, the spirit told us not to go, or the Holy Ghost. No, it was because somebody had a crush on a boy and we wanted to go over to their house instead. So I never spun it that way at all, but it is one of those scenarios where you're like, wow, could have had a very different outcome, and very scary for that scenario. The story was used as a faith promoting story in state conference later.
Really?
Because her husband was on the high council. Yes. And it was used as they were able, through the grace of God, to break the restraints. They were able to get a hold of the bishop. The Lord was with us. We felt comfort.
Did they add the detail that when the home invasion guy came in the house, he announced his intent to kill the husband and to kidnap the mom?
Yes. And to kidnap the wife. I am here. Yes, that's exactly right. No, but a weird story from the 80s, where it seems like there was a lot of strange crime in the 80s. I don't know. I mean, I know it's always there, but I don't know. It seems like I knew a lot of strange stories when I was growing up. So anyways, that was a scary Halloween that wasn't scary for me, but in hindsight, as a grown-up looking back, I realized it could have could have been very, very, very dangerous for
Yeah,
him.
very much.
Wow. I got to tell a story about that
Yeah.
too, but I'll wait
Yeah.
until after the next caller.
Thank you,
Thank
Rebecca.
you, Rebecca.
Yeah.
Awesome story.
All right. Keep up the good work. This is awesome.
Thank
Happy
you.
Halloween, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you. If my response to that story seemed a bit muted, it's because I recognized I'd heard it before from Rebecca.
Have you ever dealt with an intruder or anything like that in your lifetime, RFM?
No, but I'm well armed in case it happens. I'll make them regret it. However, I will say that something very strange happened on this street in this small town that I podcast from right here. 3 blocks up from this location on the same street, last Friday night at 10 o'clock, there was a double shooting in an office building along the street. Once again, very small town. And I didn't find out about this until yesterday morning. And the police are not releasing a lot of details. Except we're left to except that, they're not concerned. They're not like warning people. They're trying to find somebody. So obviously it was a murder-suicide, right? Or at least seemingly obviously. And one of them involved it was like a 24-year-old male and a 62-year-old woman. And I think she was maybe a counselor and other than that, it's up to speculation. Was this a client, 24-year-old client? And is that what happened? And he was mentally, but it's just interesting because at 9 o'clock on the same night, last Friday, 3 blocks up from where that happened, I was leaving the studio after our Friday night edition of Mormonism After Dark. So things can be close to us all the time.
Yeah, I actually dealt with this once. My then wife went to work. She was a nurse's aide, and so she worked second shift. So she went off. It was a time of year where it got dark slightly earlier, so maybe autumn, fall, or winter. Definitely not summer. And I think fall or spring. But I was out in the living room playing a video game. My kids, I had 2 kids at the time. They were both in their beds sleeping, and I could hear something happening to my master bedroom window. And so it was all dark because I was playing video games in the dark. And so I poked my head through the door and I could see somebody was fidgeting with like the window, had the window up a little bit. So the screen letting cool air in. And I ended up grabbing a baseball bat and I walked out my front door around the house and I met a guy there. And I said, "What the hell are you doing?" And he said, "Oh no, I just stopped here for a moment. I was walking along and got tired and I just stopped." And
yeah, your next stop's going to be the hospital, pal, unless you get the hell out of here.
Yeah. And so I called the police before I went outside. So I called the police. I went outside to do this to confront him. And he says that. And I said, "I called the cops. They're going to be here any second." And he took off running. And I ran too, but then I needed to be able to stay because the cops were going to come to me. And so I chased him for maybe 3 blocks and he just kept going and going and going. So I ran back to my house. And when the police came, I told them to go that way. That's where he is. And they never caught up with him, never found him. But that guy was trying to get in my house for sure. And no idea what his intentions were. But I did play baseball quite a bit growing up. And he didn't have any weapons. And I can promise you he would have lost. So
swing, Billy, swing.
That's right. Swing away, Merrill. Swing away. There's a combination of baseball and alien stories for the show. But yes, that happened. Scared the hell out of me, though. You're never really ready for someone to be breaking into your house while you're home. Anyway, we've got several people here. So
yes, let's bring them on, please. Marzipan Krabopoulos.
How are you? You got yourself muted.
Yep, I'm unmuted.
Look at that.
That made me feel good.
I don't usually have a Halloween costume, but I did this year, so I figured I would get on and say hi.
Hi to
So
you.
I don't know if you recognize me. The only reason I have a costume this year is because my 8-year-old really wanted to have like a mommy and me costume. So come here.
Oh.
So I present Cinderella, and I'm her fairy godmother.
Cinderella. Good evening. Hi, Cinderella.
Oh, she can't hear you. I got
okay.
my headset.
I'm
But
Radio Free Mormon is
they
saying
can
hi,
hear you.
Cinderella.
Great.
She'll just talk.
Fan-
Like she would totally host her own YouTube channel, wouldn't you?
How's it going, Cinderella?
Great. It's not just going good, it's going great.
Really?
Fantastic.
What is your fairy godmother doing for you tonight?
Say, what was that?
What is your fairy godmother doing for you tonight?
What is your fairy godmother doing? Well, her fairy godmother made her fairy godfather take her skating, so there's that.
Nice. Bippity bippity boo, right? Or something like that.
Boo, but yes.
Yeah.
Bippity boppity boo.
That's about it.
You think?
My only real Halloween story that I always just it is just funny is that when we were kids, we lived not really out in the country, but kind of. But we were in a subdivision, but there wasn't anything else around. So it wasn't like you were very limited on how much you were trick-or-treating. You could trick-or-treat our subdivision and then you were done. And so my brother one time went 3 times. He went first as Superman, and then he came home and put on his camo outfit and went out as, I don't know, camo, G.I. Joe, I don't know. And then he came home and got my dad's old Air Force uniform and went out again. So he figured out how to work that system.
That's so smart. You know, I thought of doing that on a number of occasions, but I never actually did it.
So anyway, that's all I got. Happy Halloween, everybody.
Well,
Thank you so much, Marzipan. Thanks for calling in. Thanks. Nice
Okay,
seeing you,
Cinderella.
Cinderella. Have a great Halloween.
We're gonna do this tomorrow, then we'll see you tomorrow.
She said she'll see you tomorrow if you're trick-or-treating.
Okay.
All right.
If you're doing anything tomorrow for Halloween.
See us later. Bye.
Bye-bye. That's one
Well,
excited Cinderella.
Yeah.
It gives me hope for the country.
Yeah, it's we're in a rough spot at the moment, huh? Both sides. This is about as unhealthy of 2 sides at each other as I've ever seen. So, all right, we've got an Algernon. He wants to talk about maybe Elder Oak's dishonesty. Which, if this isn't connected to Halloween, we'll probably cut this call pretty quick, my friend. What are you thinking?
Oh, absolutely. Feel free to. I was just making a quick comment.
Please go ahead.
It just occurred to me last week during your episode that Elder Oaks, when RFM was going on about, I have no knowledge of that sort of lawyerly language.
Yes.
It occurred to me that the same person has no issue standing up in conference and saying, I know. And you know what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah, when he's bearing his testimony.
Mm-hmm.
So that does sound a little bit double standard.
But then to use the same word to express that you do have knowledge.
Yes. Good point. Good point. He's using the same word in opposite ways.
Mm-hmm. That's a lawyer for you. No. Have a great one, RFM and Bill.
Oh boy, I'll get you for that one, Algernon. Just wait.
And folks, we've got about another maybe half hour or so. If you want to join the show in studio, you can do so with the link that's now sitting in the live chat. Otherwise, 662-667-6667 or 662 Mormons. We do have a caller. This one wants to go by just Jay. Could be short for James. We could see who this is.
How about JJ?
All right, Jay, you're on Mormonism Live.
Hey guys, how are you? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. RFM can hear you.
Awesome. Just want to let you guys know I love the show. And I do have a little bit of a spooky story that I will try to make it as short as possible. But let me know when you're ready.
Okay, don't spare on the spookiness.
Yeah, please.
Okay. So this happened recently in the last maybe 2 years. If you guys know where the Fashion Place Mall is, there's a store called Doused in there. It's a shoe store. And they got all sorts of cool sneakers. You know, they're really expensive, about $300 and up. But anyway, I went up to the front attendant. Got, some short conversation. How's your day or your night? And we started talking about shoes and how I kind of knew a little bit about them and stuff like that. And our conversation was going well. And then all of a sudden, he had a customer. So he went to talk to that customer. So I went to kind of browse the T-shirts around the store. And I remember it was just me, the attendant, and then that customer. And all of a sudden, I heard someone like very close behind me say, "Sir?" And I thought, okay, somebody must want my attention. So I turned around and there was nobody there. And the funny thing is that the attendant who was talking to the customer had just finished speaking to the customer and heard the same voice. And he turned around at the same time to check to see if I was talking to him. And he comes over to me and he says, did you call me? And I said, no, I turned around and I thought you were calling me. And he was like, okay, wait a minute. This is super weird, right? And I was like, yeah, no, this is super weird because I heard somebody clearly say, sir. And the music was a little loud. So I said to him, hey, what are the chances that maybe it was the music being played in the store? And he's like, well, I listen to this music play loop all of the time, and I've never heard that. But we can rewind it to the last 2 minutes of the song that we're playing when that happened to see if maybe that was, a voice or a bite that was in the song. So we played it back, and there was nobody that said "sir" in that song. So I was like, okay, wait a minute. I turned into a mini paranormal enthusiast at the moment. And I was like, okay, wait a minute. You were standing here. I was standing there. You heard it. I heard it. There's nobody else in the store. So what could it be? And he's like, I have no idea. We're baffled. We had a couple laughs about it. I went to visit the store again, maybe like 3 months later. And we were still, at that point where we were like, we don't know what happened. We don't know who that was. The store, we even analyzed things like maybe someone said "sir" outside and it echoed inside, but that's kind of impossible because this store is surrounded by glass. So there you have it. I don't know what else to say, but it was kind of spooky.
An apparition.
Must have been some apparition or something, but even till this time, I still look back and think, that was everything that we looked at was kind of impossible, and we just related it back to something paranormal. So
It's strange when you
there it
hear
is,
a
guys.
voice speaking and there's nobody there to speak it. At least no one we can see.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
And I'll tell you what,
Yeah, please.
Oh,
Sorry.
yes, I'm sorry. The last thing I'll say is that it was RFM. It was like if someone was standing, I'd say maybe 2 or 3 feet from the back of you, and you hear someone say "sir." You clearly hear them as day, clear as day, and you're like, you turn around because someone's trying to get your attention. But
right,
I know I wasn't crazy because the other attendant heard it too, and he turned around at the same time. He turned around to the same focal point of the voice, and there was nothing there. So yeah, guys, have it you will, but love the show. Thanks for letting me call in, and you guys have a happy Halloween.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, JJ. That's for Just Jay.
When my mom passed, my dad could swear that he could smell someone next to him smoking a cigarette. My mom pretended to quit numerous times in her life, but always snuck around and smoked a cigarette. And so he swore that she was around when that would happen. So, to this day, he mentions that. So, what do you?
Reminds me of a line from The Raven. Then methought the air grew denser, perfumed from an unseen censer.
Yeah, something like that. But with
Swung by
like,
seraphim whose footfalls tinkled on the tufted floor. But yeah, it's an interesting thing.
yeah, and there is a thing where our brain triggers us to smell familiar smells from something else that the memory triggers. There's some psychological phenomenon that has a name that does that. But
They say the olfactory sense is the sense most associated with memory.
yeah.
Is that what you mean?
Yeah, but I forget but there's a
No, you
name.
have to have something to smell in the first place, right?
Yeah. And just intriguing, he'd be in his house and he doesn't smoke. And just once in a while he would sit there and, it'd be sort of a moment where he's kind of paying attention and suddenly he smells the smell of cigarettes. But anyway, kind of a cool thing. We've got a call first, and then I see Spooky Culch down below. So I'm going to put Teresa up. Teresa, you're on Mormonism Live.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. How are
Teresa.
you guys?
Excellent.
Hi,
Yeah.
Teresa.
Hi. I'm so excited. I'm kind of starstruck. Anyway, you guys are so great and have helped me a lot. But I had a few stories. I married my husband later in life, and I had 2 children from a previous marriage. But anyway, we moved into a really old house in the Ballard area in Seattle.
Down by the locks.
And yes, it was built in the late 1800s. And there was a gentleman that added a second story to it and then a back area to it. And he had passed away of a heart attack on the roof. And it was really kind of cool because there was an outdoor building where he would write on the unfinished drywall all of his little poems he had to a lot of his ex-girlfriends. So we'd go out and read these ex-poems, and I felt like I kind of got connected with him that way in a weird way. But before we got married, I was in the upstairs area scrubbing the floors to get ready to do floor paint. And I thought everybody had come home because somebody clearly was walking up the stairs up to these 2 upstairs bedrooms. And it just kind of made me pause because as I'm hollering out for people who I think are home, nobody's answering. And so that was my first experience in that house. And probably one of my last experiences before we moved out of that house, I was in the back room surrounded by, we had this little cubby area where you could sit on a computer with a table, and it was surrounded by some metal file cabinets and a metal fridge, and the computer, of course, with hard plastic in the table. And I just hear these, when you're in a house or something, things kind of creak, or you hear things tapping every once in a while. I had this idea to talk to Lester, was his name, of the man that died on the roof. And mind you, I'd had lots of other experiences with him before this, or who I thought was him.
You're going to talk to Lester?
I'm going to talk to Lester, and I just was like, I thought, well, what if that's Lester tapping on these things and that are making these sounds? So I just kind of said out loud, I said, hey, Lester, I bet you can't do that again, or something to that effect. And I sat and I paused and I waited for about, a minute or 2, and nothing happened. And then I'm like, oh, okay, I guess you can't after all. And then about 30 seconds later, everything around me started getting tapped on. The fridge, the file cabinet, the computer. I mean, it was just all this tapping, like all around me. I was like, oh, okay, I guess you can. You can stop now. And anyway, and then it stopped. But anyway.
No one else in the home? No one else in the home?
No one. Well, everybody was asleep. I couldn't go to bed because I was pregnant at the time and had a bout of insomnia, and it was like 2:00 in the morning and everybody was asleep. And anyway, he would pull on my pants and he would freak the dog out. He'd tap the dog on the butt and the dog would jump and run around the house barking.
Is it the cuffs of your pants that he would pull on?
The back, especially when I was in the kitchen washing the dishes, because we have a dishwasher, I had to wash on my hands. It would tug like on my pants or my shirt.
Was it like he was trying to pants you at all?
I don't know. It was like, I don't know. I don't know if he was doing the same to me that he would to the dog, you know?
Oh, right.
It was kind of it was interesting.
Yeah, that's why they called him Lester the molester.
You're right, maybe so. He loved the women.
Ooh.
He loved the women. Had a whole
Not all
wall
friendly
of
ghosts.
poems.
That's so interesting.
Pardon me?
And how did this end up resolving itself? You're no longer in the house, the same house, right?
Yeah, we moved and they tore the house down and built a nice, bigger, fancier house. So anyway.
Wow.
I don't know that it did solve itself. The house went goodbye. I always kind of wondered if maybe he haunts the new house.
That was my thought, but then I thought, how would you know? Before I asked you,
I wouldn't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I have no idea. Is it associated to the house itself or the spot where the house is?
I don't know. I don't even know if it was Lester, but I don't know.
Do you know that the missionary, one of the two missionaries who taught me, told me a story that he represented, and I've got no reason to think he was lying. It was Elder Timothy Shanson, by the way, back in 1978. And he told me the story when he was at home. It was at nighttime. He was sleeping on the couch in the living room or something. And there was an adjacent kitchen. And it was the middle of the night. And all of a sudden, he was awakened to the sound of the deafening clatter and banging of pots and pans in the kitchen and the slamming of cabinet doors. And he woke up, he tried to figure out what was going on. Of course, the lights are out. He can't see anything. And he rushes to the wall where the light switch is. He flips it on, looks at the kitchen area, and there is nothing out of place.
Interesting. Nothing out of place.
That was the way he told the
You would
story.
think it would be like mid-swing. Huh. Interesting.
I'm not sure if that makes the story better
Right.
or not.
I don't know. Another story, if you don't mind. After we moved to Montlake Terrace to some houses. Anyway, during COVID, sometime right when they started opening the hospitals back up for surgeries and stuff, right at the end of COVID, I was diagnosed with a mass tumor about the size of a melon in my uterus area. And before I even knew about any of that happening, I would be laying in my bed or sitting on the couch, and always over my same corner of my right shoulder, but about 2 or 3 feet away from me, I would just see this black shadow out of the corner of my eye. And I'd turn and look because I'm expecting someone to be there, and there's nobody there. And that happened like, a half a dozen times. And then I decided that, and then I developed kind of feeling like I was ill and an illness, and decided that I needed to go be seen. And then they found the tumor and then removed it. But I have never seen that black shadow since.
Did you feel it was associated with the period of time when you had the tumor?
I kind of thought maybe it was, but you never know for sure. But I kind of thought maybe the shadow was, or someone was hanging around, and then after the danger was gone, it left. I don't know.
Do you have any thoughts as to what it was?
No, because I couldn't. No, not really. I don't know. I don't know why it would hang over me and not try to say anything or impress give me an impression in any way other than just kind of hanging out.
Yes, even if it's something as
I know.
mundane as death.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it didn't get me. Not
No, it
yet,
didn't.
anyway.
It didn't. You flipped Death the bird.
Nope. Yep, I did.
Well, thank you,
I
Teresa,
did.
for both those.
Good for you.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys. Thanks for all you do. And thanks for taking my call.
You're welcome.
Absolutely. Happy Halloween.
Similar, my parents had a pool table downstairs, and there were nights that they were both sleeping and both of them woke up suddenly at the same time, multiple occasions. And they both woke up like somebody's downstairs playing pool. They just heard someone, break and all the balls bouncing off each other, and they would go downstairs and nothing was awry. It was just the way it was. So when you said your pots and pans story and nothing had been out of place, nothing had, I think these, whatever these things are, they like to either put things back where they found them, or the noise is made in some other way. But that happened on multiple occasions.
Well, we've had 3 stories tonight that could be all described as auditory hallucinations or auditory manifestations, from your folks' pool table to the pots and pans of Elder Shantz to the voice saying, "Sir."
Yes. And when more than one person hears it at the same time, that becomes in the realm of unexplainable. Now, again, there could have been, there almost always in every instance is a naturalistic explanation. And when you don't see it, your brain jumps to what is most rational to you without the missing piece of information. But 'tis life. That's what makes a scary story scary.
Yes, the one piece of information we were missing from the first story was that on this music playlist was Lulu's big hit, "To Sir with Love."
To Sir with Love. Hello,
Sir. Sir.
It was Conway Twitty. Hello, darling. It's nice to see you. It's been a long time. All right, Spooky Culch is here.
Spooky Culch,
Hey,
I've
what's
got
up?
2 things to say to you.
Okay,
Ready?
yeah, speak, please.
Just shut up. Sit down and shut
Shut
up.
up.
I can't do it as good as
You
Jim
gotta
Bennett.
rub
I was
your hair
watching him
too
play the
when you
clip
do
right
it.
before the show started.
That's old Jim Bennett telling
Oh, that
our
was
friend.
fantastic when he put
Yeah.
Jacob Hansen in his place.
Yeah, so good, so good. How are you guys tonight?
Great, thank you.
Good.
I'm trying to find my
Good. I'm sitting here with our old friend Spooky Puppy.
Oh my gosh, that is the spookiest puppy I've ever seen.
He's super spooky. He's like vampire
He's
teeth,
going
man.
for your jugular. Look out for him.
Oh, watch out. So you were talking about auditory hallucinations, but I have a story about potentially a visual hallucination that might spike your interest, RFM. So when I was a kid, this was early 90s, I was probably 11 years old. I was really into ghosts. And me and my friends were, and we thought Ouija boards were cool and that type of stuff. And
Yes.
I had a little bit of hubris as an 11-year-old. And so out loud, I basically challenged an evil spirit to appear to me. I
Was
gave
his
it
name
permission.
Lester?
I didn't have a name. I just
No
said
Lester.
anyone. I threw out a general challenge, like a Jacob Hansen debate challenge. I threw out an appearance challenge to all
To
the
the
evil
universe.
spirits.
Speaking
Yeah.
of hubris.
And so later that night, I'm in my bedroom. I shared a room with my brother, but he was gone for the night somewhere. And my bed was across from the closet, which happened to be open. And I turned and I saw what looked like a dark figure with red eyes just staring out right at me,
So your
across onto
door
the
is
bed.
open, your bedroom door is open.
No, the bedroom door is probably closed, but the closet door is open. So
This is the closet in the bedroom.
Yes.
Okay.
And so my
you see
bed's
a
like
figure there?
here. Yeah. I couldn't make out. It just looked like kind of a shape like that was dark with 2 red eyes that were just staring right at me. And I'd go back under the covers and then I'd peek out and it was still there.
Yes.
And
That's the
so then
approved
I went
method
in.
of protection for an 11-year-old is under the covers.
I didn't have the priesthood yet, or else I would have cast it out. So I had to
Yeah,
have been
absolutely.
11 or 10.
You didn't even have the
So-
Aaronic priesthood for crying out loud.
No.
The
So I went
Aaronic
to
priesthood just gives it a black eye.
I went to prayer mode for about an hour or so, and then eventually I looked out and it was gone. But it was
Well, thank
scary.
God.
Yeah, it was very scary.
Oh
And
my
to this day, I
gosh, it
don't know
must
if
have
it
been
was real.
horrifying. Was there no
Yeah.
one else home for you to call out to?
It was the type of fear where you were paralyzed and I wouldn't move a muscle besides just putting the covers over my head.
Okay, think carefully. Did the paralyzation come before or after you saw the figure?
After. And it wasn't complete paralyzation. It was just like, I'm not getting out of this bed. I'm not moving. I'm just staying here
Imagine what might
until
be
this
under the
thing is
bed.
gone. Yeah. Ooh. Well, it was a water bed, so there was nothing under the bed. That's
Oh, right.
dating myself. Yeah, we had water beds.
Nessie was
Yeah.
on.
Imagine if something was in the water bed though. And
Yes,
came out,
Nessie.
that would be something.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The creature from the
Oh.
Black Lagoon. So how on earth did you sleep in that room anymore?
I don't know. I guess once it was gone, I thought it was fine, and I didn't worry about it anymore. I kind of learned my lesson. I said, I will not tempt the evil spirits anymore. Was that your dog or mine, Bill?
I think we were just hearing from
He is. There's. You might be able to hear. I've been the reason you sort of were muted for just a split second, and RFM probably was getting ready to tell me he couldn't hear you, but there was some vehicle or something making lots of noise outside.
Oh,
I was worried because you were looking over your shoulder like you were hearing somebody say, "Sir,
No,
sir."
there's like a grinding noise, and it's some, like a street cleaning truck or something out there. Kind of
And
late.
you look out the window and there's no truck.
No truck.
Or are you hearing it on my end?
No, it's me.
Oh,
It's
okay.
inside my apartment here.
I was
I
going to
didn't
say,
hear
I
anything,
gotta.
Bill, just so you know. I heard a dog.
Yeah.
Yes, I heard the dog too. And I thought it was mine, even though mine's sitting right here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Teddy's
but that was
doing his thing.
Yeah, that was my story, RFM. I don't know. What do you think? Imagination, or did an evil spirit really come hang out in my closet for an hour?
I think there's something very attractive about a dark figure with red glowing eyes. And I only say that because it seems to be reported with a great deal of frequency.
Really? Okay.
Yes.
Maybe there's something to it.
It was an evil spirit.
Oh, that's
It
really
could have
cool.
been.
Which one did you push there?
The orange one?
An evil spirit. Hang on. Hang on. An evil spirit?
You might have to push the arrow buttons and change it over to the right thing.
Yeah, screw it. You do this one.
Yeah, do it, Bill.
What should we talk about next,
I want you to say these words, okay, Bill? Say, your mother cooks socks in hell. Go ahead.
Your mother cooks socks in hell.
Bill, can I do a request, Bill? Can you say, are you not familiar with my collective witness model in that voice?
Are you not familiar with my collective witness model?
Like somebody somehow
sounds better.
Less intelligent because they've never heard of this thing he made up.
Yeah, and he said it like Jim was supposed to know. That was
I
funny.
know.
You can't invent new ways to know truth and then assume your way should automatically be the way that others discern truth. That's absurd.
And that they've heard of it.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, if anyone's interested on Halloween, if you want to see something really scary, me and Jim will be doing a live tomorrow
That sounds
night.
like the
You can
opening
come.
line or one of the opening lines out of the Twilight Zone movie.
Oh, is it? I don't know.
You want to see something really scary?
Oh, yeah. You'll have to see both of us, and we're going to talk about someone really scary, Jacob Hansen. So if
I think
anyone's
you're getting
done with
obsessed
your
with
trick or
Jacob
treating,
Hansen the same way he's obsessed with Julie Hanks, who was on the show earlier, by the way.
I agree with that, RFM. But my excuse, and I said this in my interview with Jim last week, is that I'm just doing it because I'm an asshole, and he's doing it because he's obsessed. So
I know.
that's the
I actually
difference.
saw you saying that on the show.
Oh, did you?
Right, yes, that's why I said that.
Yeah, I'm not being disingenuous about my motives for making Jacob Hansen videos.
Well, between the two of them, Jacob Hansen, he's pretty cute.
And
No one would
he's
blame
probably
you.
someone's type. Oh, no, nothing
He's
like
gotta
that.
be I mean, he's got kids, right?
He
He's gotta be
does.
somebody's type.
Yep. Not
Well,
mine,
thank
but
you.
somebody's.
Thank you, Spooky Culch.
All right, guys, have a good night.
Take it easy.
Good night. And that was not an intentional slam at all on Julie.
If they don't live up to these covenants on this day, they shall be under my power.
I have a word to say concerning this, people.
Oh boy, oh boy. Okay, we've got two more. By the way, folks, I think we'll leave the lines closed. We have two more folks, one in studio and one in the call. I don't know how. I think Keenan's been waiting longer. So Landon, if you don't mind waiting for just another minute or two here.
That's not Landon Brophy, is it?
It might be. I don't know yet. It just says Landon.
I don't know that many Landons. And this is Keenan Wynn.
Yeah. Hey, guys.
Keenan.
So I am actually named after Keenan Wynn. I kid you not. My parents.
Well, I kid you not. I'm freaking psychic, baby. This is the Halloween special.
Yeah. I mean, it's a little disappointing to be a kid growing up in the 90s and find out as a teenager that your parents named you after a B-list actor from the 70s, but I'll take it. So I have kind of a true crime story. Not super spooky, except for the one committing the crime kind of ended up with a spooky experience at the end. And I have to say, in my post-Mormon life, I may be a little less credulous than I once was. So I can't say I really fully believe this story is true, but my parents told it to me, and it was concerning a prominent family in Southern California, LDS family, and I think the husband was a bishop in their ward early on in their marriage, and they decided to take a family trip to Mexico, and they brought grandma along, and one day at the beach, they went to wake grandma from her lounge chair, and she didn't wake up. She'd passed away. Sad story, but apparently she was quite old and ready to go.
What a way to go on a beach in Mexico.
Yeah. But they decided that all the hassle of getting her back across the border was something they didn't really want to deal with. So they bought a rug. And they decided to roll grandma up and put grandma on top of the station wagon in a rug. And that was the plan.
Was this the Mitt Romney family by any chance?
Well, maybe there was next to the kennel, next to the dog. They had grandma and the dog on the roof. And so that was the plan. And they had grandma on there, and they went and stayed in a motel for the night. And they came out the next morning.
They just left grandma on top of the car when they went into the hotel, though.
Yeah, this is the story I was told. So they came out in the morning, and the car, along with grandma, is gone. And so that's the end of the story. And the spookiest part has to be the thieves who stole the car and unrolled the carpet and discovered grandma. So I don't know if it's true. It kind of now sounds a little bit out there, but my parents swore by it and loved to tell that story growing up.
It could be. That could happen. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I watch a lot of true crime now, and it's hard. This was like the 70s, so it's hard for me to imagine that there wouldn't be some questions about grandma's whereabouts when they got home, but maybe back then you could just roll up a body and just tell someone you lost grandma in Mexico. No one would ask you anything else. So, or maybe that bishop was a murderer and took his family to Mexico and killed his mom. So there's a lot of possibilities, but
yeah, I hope that if he did that he wouldn't be stupid enough to make up crazy stories and be telling them to his friends after he got home.
Well, I think that's true. Apparently this was a story that they heard from the pulpit. So I think it was
from the pulpit.
Yeah. Something
it's the Bonnie Corden family.
It might be. Apparently this was like a funny story.
Right? One, yeah. Anyway, go ahead. I won't say any more about that.
No, not much else to say. But yeah.
The show is getting dark.
I'm much less credulous now, so I'm not sure I believe it. But in Mormonism was a world of wild stories being swept under the rug or rolled into the rug. And I'm not so sure I believe any of them anymore, but it's a good story. So happy Halloween. Thanks, guys.
Thank you for sharing it with us, Keenan. Happy Halloween to you too.
All right, let me drop that.
Wow. This is a crazy night. What strange stories we're having.
All right, I'm going to end the call in studio. We still had, one more person was below, but they've left.
You know, this happened. Didn't this happen last
I
time?
got Landon. No, that's not what happened.
That's right. It was Landon.
Yep, I got the wrong one. So give me just a second. This will take me just a moment. I messed up.
Let's see if it's Landon Brophy. If it's Landon Brophy, I don't think we should take the call because we already had one half of Mormonish calling in earlier.
Okay, here we go. I'm going to turn that.
Love that tune.
All right. Let's see what happens here. Talk. Landon, are you there?
Yes.
All right. Go ahead. This is not Landon Brophy.
I don't think so.
No, it's not.
All right. Then please proceed, sir.
Might be Michael Landon.
Different Landon.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm fighting a cold right now, but I wanted to say I love you guys. I think you do wonderful work. So
thank you
for all you do. I just have a quick question for RFM. I remember in one of your videos you said that you said that you don't reread books very often, but there was one book that you read you went back to every couple of years. Does that ring a bell? What book was it?
Was that The Exorcist you were talking about?
Was it a tale?
I was talking about The Exorcist, and I don't have it with me right here. What I have are two books, which we're not going to get to because we've got so much on it. Wasn't The Exorcist? Was it Macbeth?
Well, see, the one I have in memory was it A Tale of Two Cities?
I have read A Tale of Two Cities. I loved it when I read it, and I made the comment because it was in the introduction to the book by the person who knows more about it than I do, that it was so popular that Mark Twain, who himself was a pretty rough critic when it came to other authors, like James Fenimore Cooper, who he didn't have a lot of time for and didn't think was very talented at all, and Joseph Smith for that matter. But when it came to A Tale of Two Cities, he said he made it a practice to read it every year or two. It was that good.
Okay.
Does that sound like what it is you're remembering?
Yes, I think so. And I've tried to go back to a few videos and figure out where it was that you said that. But so thank you. Thanks for clarifying that.
And there's also, I'm a big fan, as it turns out, of J.D. Salinger. And The Catcher in the Rye, I've read that twice, and I've read some of his other lesser-known books more than once. Like Raise the Roof Beam High, Carpenters. Yeah, that's the name of a book. Franny and Zoe. And I've read that a couple of times. And there's just something, there's a resonation between J.D. Salinger and me that keeps me coming back.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much. And I'm trying to get through, Bleak House now. I'm almost halfway through. It's not easy for me to try and keep track of all these characters. There's a whole host of characters, and some of them times they're coming in the chapter and I'm going, I'm supposed to know this person, but I don't remember who they are, but I can't go back and search them out. So just keep going on and try and hold it together as best I can. I do have a plan to watch the, there's a kind of a celebrated, I think, version that had, is it Gillian Anderson? Who's the gal from X-Files?
Yeah, Jill, I think it is. X-Files.
Well, she's in it. She plays one of the parts in it, and it's
Gillian Anderson. Gillian with a G.
Is it right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay, great. What is it, Mrs. Whatever the name is? She's Deadlock, Lady Deadlock. Okay, so that's one of the pieces in the show, which is very long, and so I'm saying I'm going to wait off because I've been tempted to watch the show so I can try and figure out what's going on in the book, but I'm going to finish the book first and then I'll watch the show, and I think that'll help me maybe put everything together. Yeah, that is she. The truth is out there.
All right. Well, our calls are done. Our in-studio guests are done.
I love Bleak House too, by the way, Pamela.
Yeah, we've had tons of ghost stories, apparitions.
Can I tell you something here?
Please.
I don't know. Maybe I should save this for a separate one, but Halloween is tomorrow.
Please.
Do you know who Whitley Strieber is?
No.
I think I'm pronouncing it correctly. It's either Strieber or Strieber, but I think it's Strieber. He's an author, and he had written Communion quite famously, and then some sequels to Communion. Do you remember the Communion book? It raised quite a stir back in late 80s, early 90s. There was a movie with Christopher Walken.
Okay.
You know Christopher Walken.
Yeah, you're trying to trick me into doing a Christopher Walken voice, but I'm not going to do it.
Can you do Christopher Walken saying, "Hey, wait, is that an alien standing behind my bedroom door?"
Is that an alien? Yeah, I don't know. And that's not. I need more practice in that
I
before
remember that scene because it was like, just like,
"Wow, you me walking down the road, wondering if there's gonna be an alien here." Right? I mean, crazy, It's just beyond absurd.
It's got big eyes, and I think it's looking at me.
He's got big eyes looking at me right in the face. I need more. All right, there's my Christopher Walken impression.
So there's this. Sorry, I inhaled while I was laughing. You got me laughing so hard. So anyway, I'm going to tell you the story. This is really a silly story, but it's true, and so I've got to tell it. In one of Whitley Strieber's subsequent books to Communion, and I can't remember the name of it, and I apologize. This would have been 1995 or 1996, and I think it was a hardback, and it was probably new then. Might have borrowed it from someplace. Anyway, I'm reading this book, and the book's hypothesis isn't just that aliens are real and aliens are among us. Let me know if I'm boring you, Bill.
No, I have COPD, so I yawn more than the average human.
Sorry, you have what?
I have COPD. It is something obstructive pulmonary disorder, which is a lung disorder where I don't breathe quite as well as the next person. I take medicine for it, but it causes me to yawn a little more than normal.
Now you're making me feel bad.
No, when's the last time you felt bad?
Okay, I was lying.
Okay.
COPD, that sounds like the Colorado Police Department.
Sort of, except less police and more health issues.
Yes, and states don't generally have police departments, but it's the best I could come up with.
You got it.
I'm sorry to hear that, and I'll try and finish my story here, okay? So the thesis of the book is not only that they're real, they're among us, the little grays, right? And I don't want to see any little grays. That would freak me out. On a movie, it's okay, but I don't want to see them in my house, hiding behind my bedroom door. And I'm reading this book, and what it says is they are aware. They are somehow aware of what it is we're doing. And it's saying that if you're reading this book, they're aware you're reading this book. And they will come and try and manifest themselves unto you. Now I'm talking, Mormonese, but they will come to you. They will know that you are reading it, and they will try and make contact with you. And this book, I swear to you, says that very commonly what happens when they make contact is that the person will hear knocking. And not just any knocking, they will hear 3 sets of 3 knocks. And that is the way that they frequently try and contact people. It is the evening. It is not late at night. It is the evening. Other people are up. I'm sitting in a chair in the living room, reading light here, book open in my lap. I'm reading this passage, and I'm going, well, this is really weird. And then I suddenly, as I'm reading on the same page, become aware that I'm hearing a knocking sound. And it seems to be from outside the house and possibly on the side of the house, the side where the living room is. And I can, if I reconstituted it in my mind, I believed that the first knocks that I had not really listened to, but only was becoming aware of, was a set of 3, which only revealed itself after there was a pause, and then another set of 3 knocks, and then another pause. And I'm going, don't. Just don't. And there was another knock, knock, knock. And then it stopped. And I got up and I went to the front door and down and around to the side, which is very narrow on this house. It was a very, very narrow lot. So there was only room enough to pass through. It was totally dark. There wasn't any lighting there. Well, I didn't see anything, and nothing ever came of it, to my knowledge, afterward. But I definitely heard at least 2 sets of 3, and I believe that there was a prior set of 3 that I only became aware of as I started realizing I was hearing knocking while I was reading this book.
Yeah.
Am I just extremely suggestive?
I don't know. My grandmother taught me, she was very superstitious, and she said that if knocks in 3s come 3 times, then somebody you know, you love, something horrible happens to them. And she had all these superstitious beliefs about those kinds of things. So you're giving me the heebie-jeebies.
Well, I hope that some people in the audience are getting the heebie-jeebies too from this story, because it actually is true. It really happened. I don't know what to make of it. And I'm as open to the idea that the rational explanation for that would be that I'm just very suggestive. And yet I don't consider myself to be so. But then I think, well, probably people who are really suggestive don't consider themselves to be really suggestive.
Yeah. Do you think that Josiah Stoll was very suggestive?
Oh, yeah.
Talking about a rock and a hat.
He was lining up to be everybody's fool.
Yeah. Him and Martin Harris both.
Yeah. Just very, very gullible.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I just don't think that I am. I think that really happened.
Yeah. I mean, if you heard it, again, you read it and then you heard it, and that sort of combination would scare the hell out of me.
Yes. Especially when I'm reading Whitley's Driver writing that this is what happens. And they know that you're reading this. I mean, was he just engaged in an effort to do, the suggestion thing to people? I don't know. But honestly, I think I'm aware. Here's the deal. I have dealt with suggestion and the issue of suggestibility since I was in 6th grade through learning about hypnosis, self-hypnosis, doing it on others. And so I've been aware of the idea that suggestibility is an issue for a long time. So at least I have it in my head that it's a possibility that a person can be very suggestible, which I would like to think decreases my chances of being as suggestible as somebody might be who's not aware that it's even an issue.
I don't know what to do with that one. There were a few stories tonight that I didn't know what to do with. I'm skeptical of a lot of things. I also find ghost stories and stuff a lot of fun. But there was a few stories that I thought I couldn't come up with a rational explanation for that.
Yeah. More things in heaven and earth.
Yeah.
Then will fit in your philosophy, right?
That's
More
right.
things in heaven and earth, Horatio, than are dreamt of in your philosophy. I'm so sorry. By the way, I'll close this out by saying that my dear friend and first missionary companion in Japan, who is now the church historian, Elder Kyle McKay, he used to do a version of that, which I just thought was so funny, and I remember it ever since. Because I knew it at the time, because I'd been in Hamilton High School. So I know the line. Everybody knows the line, right? More things in heaven and earth, Horatio, than are dreamt of in your philosophy. And he would say in a very sniffy kind of way, well, there are more things in heaven and earth, Horatio, than will fit in your coin purse. I just thought that was funny. Because obviously there's, you get it. Anyway, and sometimes he would vary it with backyard. More things in heaven and earth, Horatio, than will fit in your backyard.
Yeah. Well, that brings our Halloween special to a close. And we've got Mormonism After Dark on Friday.
And Mormonism After Halloween.
Yeah, I wonder how much darker we can get.
That will be on All Souls Day.
On Brian Hales, maybe on that episode.
I'm sorry, what about Brian Hales?
I said maybe I can share a few thoughts on Brian Hales on Mormonism After Dark.
Oh, right, because you were a bit circumscribed in expressing your full and fulsome
I got out everything.
Brian Hales.
I got out everything I wanted to say, but I could say it again. But no, folks, Friday night, 8 p.m., Mormonism After Dark. And anything else you want to say before I close out, or you want to close out this show?
I'll save the story about me being the headless horseman till Friday.
Oh, that'll be great. Let's lead off with the headless horseman story. And then maybe there's some other thing we need to.
There it is right there. I can't even do my hands right, but it's back there.
I love it. Folks, thank you for joining us for another episode of Mormonism Live. And again, would appreciate donations if you can. For those who support the program and support the two of us doing what we do, we've been doing it for years. We thank you from the bottom of our heart, and it gives us a chance to really put some time and energy into creating content that you enjoy and that informs you. So I think it's the gift that keeps on giving. So very much appreciate all of you. RFM, I'm grateful for who you are and what you bring to this. And I can't wait to hear about Ichabod Crane and the Headless Horseman on Friday. Have a great night,
Cheers, my friend. Happy Halloween. Happy Halloween, everybody.
Good night.